This is the November 8th meeting of the Conservation Commission. It will begin at 5:31, I guess. And the first order of business is the approval of minutes from the last meeting. Anybody have a motion for that?
So moved.
You have to make a motion to approve them.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
And do we have a
for
second
last
of that?
meeting, which
Second.
was
Okay. October 12th.
in October, what was it?
12th.
12th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, we have old business here. My understanding is the solar project in West Main Road is being continued even more so it's going to wait till the next meeting unless I'm in error. I was told it was going to continue again. The one compost Serenity Drive plan, I've not heard back from, so I'm not quite sure if they're here to present tonight or not. Are they?
Ready? Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
We're ready for you then.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. J. Russell Jackson, Miller, Scott, Holbrook, and Jackson on behalf of the applicants. This is, I think, a follow-up meeting with you. We were before you on July 12th of this year, went through the plan in its then current iteration regarding a 5-lot conventional subdivision at the end of Serenity Drive. Since that time, there's been additional work done on drainage, meetings with the TRC, with the most recent one being this past Friday, at which time the TRC made a positive recommendation with certain conditions to the planning board for preliminary plan approval. As it relates to the Conservation Commission, I mean, I know we went through a number of issues back in July. I'm sure you have some additional questions. We have Lynn Small here this evening to answer those questions, as she's probably better equipped to do that than I am. So I'd like to present Lynn Small, and she can go through the plan in its current form, and as we are prepared to move forward in front of the planning board. Thank you.
I assume you all have the plans in front of you. If not, I brought some reduced copies.
Can I ask a question? I have a copy of those, I'll call them the old plans that we reviewed when we had our first Conservation Commission meeting, but I've seen nothing since that. So if you have revised plans or new plans, I don't think we have seen any of those yet.
Sure, it hasn't, the layout of the subdivision hasn't really changed, but we did finalize the drainage designs, so those details and elevations will be included in the final grading is included now.
Yeah, I think those are the things that, one of our primary areas of interest.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the project is comprised of 2 residential lots at this time, totaling over $400,000 square feet of land area, located at the end of, or the east end of Serenity Drive and north of Maidford River Road. Currently, it's undeveloped, and at the eastern side of the project, we have a wetland series that is offset from the Maidford River. I think it's the Maidford River. Those are shown on your plan with a 200-foot offset, which represents the Watershed Protection District, which doesn't extend into this property, but the wetland series extends within this property. So we are here before you at the Conservation Commission. The lot by land area, when you remove the developable the undevelopable portions of the property supports 8 lots by the current zoning calculations. The developer is proposing a 5-lot conventional subdivision. We are proposing to have a shorter right-of-way for this roadway as basically your first step in stormwater design is to minimize your impervious areas. So not only minimizing those lots, but also minimizing the road infrastructure that leads to them. Every lot will have access from the right-of-way into their individual property. So there's no shared driveways that result from this reduced road length. We will be, when we first saw you in July, I don't know that we had the full design plans done at that time. We had explained to you that we were planning potentially to bring in municipal water, but we made sure the project worked with wells, just in case we couldn't get the municipal water into the project site. Since then, we have worked with the Newport Water Department, and the owner has confirmed that they want to bring in the municipal water. So we'll be doing a water main extension from Compton View Drive into the site. They will also bring in gas from there.
And did we say before sewer as well?
And electric.
Did
I'm
we-
sorry?
Did we say before that municipal sewer will also be available?
The project always had municipal
That's-
sewer
that's what I
service.
thought
We will be replacing the line, providing it along a new lot line and an 8-inch line that will come down and connect into the last manhole on Maidford River Road. So the easements that were or are in place right now for the existing 2 lots will be removed and replaced with the new easements to go over the new sewer and water line.
Where will it hook up to the sewer in town?
I'm sorry?
Down Maidford River Road or up on?
Maidford River Road
So
has a
it's
sewer
downhill.
main. Yep, and you
Okay.
can actually see it on the plans. It's just north of the M from Maidford River Road.
Got it.
So we'll be tying into that sewer main and providing sewer service for each of the 5 lots. Since the project has the land area to support 8 lots, we're able to develop 5 lots that have more than sufficient land area to meet the zoning requirements. We did the drainage designs for the project and submitted to the DEM Wetlands and Ripties program. Basically, all the stormwater for the development runs towards the wetlands and river. We'll be intercepting that and providing pretreatment, water quality treatment, and then detention so that we can reduce the peak runoff to that catchment. We will be reducing the runoff for all of your storms. Your 1, 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storms have all been evaluated.
Have you changed that since the original plan you presented to us?
I'm sorry?
Has there been any changes in that since the original plan you presented to us?
There is no change in the layout of the subdivision. We went back and forth with the TRC 3 times, I believe, or at least 3 set of comments. I'm not sure if we created a meeting for it, but the engineering has been fully vetted. And we made revisions to the designs to accommodate any concerns that the town had. It was reviewed by Crossman Engineering. It was provided a favorable recommendation at the last TRC that we had, which was held Friday morning, this past Friday morning. We did get the DEM permits in hand, so I think we have everything ready to move forward with the
Were the
project.
size of the catchment basins that you had in the first plan been revised at all?
They've been revised, because they're always revised, but at the same time, my office updates the developable land area calculations for
Okay.
you. And those are on sheet. You'd think I'd be faster at this. 4 of 11, the subdivision plan. We also, at
more.
one of the board meetings that we had, and I apologize, I can't remember if it was this meeting or if it was the master planning board meeting, there was some concerns about stormwater going to the adjacent properties on Maidford River Road, which resulted from when they put the sewer line in. For the 2-lot subdivision, they pulled some stone wall sections out, which allowed the water to drain through and go into those residential properties. You'll see on sheet 6 that we have a swale section that will intercept any runoff that's going to go towards Maidford River Road. That basically sums up the project. There's, like I said, there's no substantial changes from what we had originally presented to you as our intent for the designs. We basically just formalized the designs and got the other permits and the TRC review completed.
Question? Back in July, our last meeting when we met, we expressed some concern about trees that had been cut down earlier this year, I think in March, and specifically in that area where the swales are indicated on the design. And we asked whether was there a plan to maybe plant some more trees, because in addition to drainage, they also provided screening from the residents on Maidford River. So is there any update on that in terms of plans to restore some of the trees that had been taken down before?
I know that they cut the trees down after they got the state permits in hand, so that that work could be done, but we did afterwards recommend that they stop until we get the final permits in hand. We do not have a landscape plan that provides any supplementation along that property line. The landscape plans that we have for the project are in line with the subdivision regulations, which basically limits us to street trees. If there's additional buffering landscaping that the board wants to be incorporated when they pull the individual building permits for those lots, that can be a condition or something. I'm not sure. Russ might be able to speak more to how that can be incorporated into the designs. I know the landscape plan has not been changed to add landscaping around the perimeter of the subdivision, as that's not usually something that's done.
Is that something the landowner would do or something that the contractor would do?
I think you mean the landowner or the developer?
Yeah, same thing.
I mean, it's important to keep in mind that in that area along the southern boundary line, we also have sewer line, stormwater system, and we want to make sure that we don't put anything that interferes with long-term maintenance. I know we have easements in place. I don't think the Department of Public Works wants us to put a tree on top of it. So we'll have to be cognizant of that when
Okay.
we put any vegetation in there. But usually that kind of buffering is done by the homeowner unless it's meant to be kept in place before the project goes forward.
Yeah, it's a property owner's land right there. They can do as they
Yeah.
want with it.
That's right. I mean, I
Okay.
cut trees down in my yard as they die, and
I know, exactly. Other comments?
Yeah, I have a question. At our last meeting, we asked whether the swale in that northern section there could be or should be extended farther to the north, because it appeared there was about like 100 feet of border that was not protected by that runoff coming down. And I understand, I believe you just said that in your final design, you did not extend that swale farther north, correct?
we did not extend that swale because part of when you do the stormwater analysis is you can't dry up a wetland. You know, I know people are concerned with the stormwater increase in your peak runoff and volume and things like that, but you have to our goal in drainage designs as engineers is to mimic your existing drainage patterns as much as possible. So you don't want to take an area that's getting water and then dry it up. What will happen is it'll dry out and you'll lose that habitat that lives in there right now. So we did not extend that swale north. because we don't have anything to specifically capture it. We modeled it the way it is to make sure that we have that uncaptured piece accounted for. And when these houses are designed, it's going to be important that the individual grading designs for those houses that are immediately uphill from the wetland area, that those impervious areas are drained towards the drainage system in which they were designed to be captured in.
All right, so you're not concerned that any flooding condition could occur in the northern area off of there as it drains into that wetlands?
No, I mean, based on our analysis, we take into consideration that uncaptured portion. It's not a very big portion of the site that runs uncaptured at the north end, and it's basically undeveloped. We're expecting it's mostly yard area. Like I said, if someone pushes their house farther back, we'll have to grade it so that that impervious area is captured within the stormwater system.
Okay. So are you saying that potential homeowners are going to have the option of relocating these house locations here?
These are, as with every single subdivision in Middletown, these are placeholders so that we can have a square footage of house footprint to include in the stormwater design.
Okay.
We're pretty aggressive in our, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, we assume a huge footprint when we do these designs. Most of them end up smaller. But we want to make sure that we allow for the homeowner to do their project when they're ready to build their house without having to add more stormwater to their property. But that is, we do have mechanisms in place. The town engineer reviews every single building permit design that we send in, and he'll ensure that we meet those criteria so that we're not exceeding what the overall drainage design can handle for the project.
Are there any constraints in case either one of these two homeowners to the east here wants to move that home closer to the wetlands to make sure that that doesn't happen?
There's a drainage system there, so I don't know that they would want to be right next to the drainage system. Are there any regulations in place that say they can't? We put an easement in there so that we can go in and maintain it. It's shown as a dashed line on your plan. That, you wouldn't be able to go closer than that, but they probably would be farther away just because you want a little bit of separation from a drainage feature.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other concerns?
Quick question, you just mentioned that you put an easement in for maintenance. Is that on the northern border of the property?
Is that on the what border?
The northern border?
The dash line that you see on the northern border is the overall project limit of disturbance. The easement line is this dash line right along the drainage system, and it runs across the entire project. You can also see it on sheet 4. It's a gray hatch. We want to make sure that if the homeowners association doesn't maintain this system, then the Department of Public Works can go in there and do it. So we gave them enough of space to be able to mow the way they need to. That area that's hatched is not all stormwater. That's basically access around it and in it and everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, so just to be clear, that gray hatched area cannot be built on?
That's inside a drainage easement that both the homeowners association has the right to go in and maintain, and Department of Public Works, or the town. We
Right.
don't specific.
But it can't be built on?
No, it can't, you could not build on it.
Okay.
It's gonna have a drainage system in
Good,
it.
I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure
Okay.
I understood that. Thank
So
you.
that's not part of proposed Lot 3, then?
It's in the lot. It's inside the lot, but it is not something that it's not part of their building envelope.
Can you tell me how close they can, there are certain requirements to boundaries of houses in an R40 zone, et cetera. How close to the drainage area can they be by zoning?
The zoning, there's nothing in the zoning ordinance that I'm aware of that tells you
Huh?
how close you can be. The stormwater regulations, adopted by the state and then by the town, recommend that you're 10 feet away, minimum of 10 feet.
So they could be right on top of the
They
drainage
could
ditch.
be, well, our drainage easement is off of the drainage system, and then, I guess you could build as close as 10, it's a recommendation, it's not a
I'm saying
requirement.
they can move your place-setting house within 10 feet of the drainage device that you have there, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be, okay. Other questions, concerns? Are there any motions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, based on the additional engineering assessments that have been made and the TRC reviews, all which have found their current drainage plan adequate to support this development, I would recommend that we would forward a recommendation of approval to the planning board.
All right. Second? Second. Any discussion of that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? You're all set. Thank you. The new business is the major development of the Mezzolela Corporation out on West Main Road. Be people here to present that? No? They said they would. Okay. We have a Quidnick Commerce Center, master plan for development of Quidnick Avenue. 809, 811, 819 Quidnick Avenue. And they need to present the plan. Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christopher Bisho. I am the owner of Aquidneck Commerce Center, and we have Lynn Small here also to answer any questions regarding the property as it relates to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Do anybody have any questions before I ask a few?
I have questions based on the drawings.
Sure.
Were you going to make a presentation beforehand or just go into questions?
I want to have Lynn come up and she can kind of go over the overview of the project, and then any questions that she can't answer, I'd be glad to help you out with.
All right, that sounds perfect. Thanks.
You all have a plan for the project, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. This project's at master plan level, so we don't have any full engineering designs yet for you. Basically, we have an existing conditions plan and a proposed conditions plan for the project. It's going to be a mixed-use development. The site includes 2 lots right now. Part of the project would be to merge those 2 lots. The southern portion of the project, which is basically occupied by commercial uses right now, is going to remain almost entirely unchanged as we develop this project. The northern parcel, which is occupied by a single-family home right now, will be demoed and redeveloped to provide 12 two-bedroom apartment units. The site has a pretty significant slope towards the west, towards Aquidneck Ave. We basically have, from a drainage standpoint, 1 catchment. Everything drains towards Aquidneck Ave, which is a state road. So one of the things that we were asked to do at the TRC that we had was to get a DOT permit before we came back for preliminary design. My office is currently working on those drainage designs so that we can submit for that state permit. The project includes a enhanced curb cut on the north side of the project for an entrance only. And then we'll have the parking for the 12 units towards the back at the top portion of the hill. That parking lot in the back will be merged with the existing parking lot in the back from the commercial project. And the exit and secondary entrance into that parking lot will be through the commercial used property. This will allow us to minimize any additional curb cuts or new curb cuts on Aquidneck Avenue. In fact, as a result of this project, we'll be closing a curb cut. So that helps with some of our traffic patterns. As you know, Aquidneck Ave is a traffic-sensitive area. We did have the fire department at that meeting along with Public Works and the town engineer. A couple of the revisions from the plans that you have in front of you was from the fire department. They wanted us to look at shifting that first handicap space a little bit south just to give them a little bit more of a radius when they're turning into that parking lot in case they have to go up there. I don't recall any other specific design requests other than obviously we're going to have to meet all the stormwater requirements for the property. We expect to have a drainage basin between the building and Aquidneck Avenue. We do have a request from the Department of Public Works that we prepare a better as-built of the sewer main that's in this area of Aquidneck Avenue because they don't have any decent plans that provides location, inverts, and elevations. So we'll be doing that as part of this project before we tie this building into that sewer main. We do have public water, gas, electric, and sewer for this project, so we're not expecting any substantial issues. The project will require a zoning, well, everything gets approved through the planning board as part of a mixed-use development, but we will need relief from building height. It's a bit of a technicality because the site has about 10 foot of grade change across the footprint of the building. If you take any one section, you basically meet the height requirement, but because the state code requires that we take it across the average existing grade across the entire footprint, because it's 10 feet of grade change, we end up with some variance. So we'll be asking for that. There's also a stipulation in the mixed-use ordinance that asks that, even though we have a residential use, they ask that we provide 100 foot of separation from adjacent buildings, residential buildings. The building to the north is approximately 62 feet away from where we have the proposed structure. We'll be putting some landscaping in to soften all the edges of the property, but we will have to request that waiver from the planning board.
Can you discuss further the rainwater management that you propose?
Well, we haven't done the designs yet, but we do fully intend to meet the state regulations and the town regulations. So we'll be providing pre-treatment to collect your sediments, water quality, to remove any contaminants during your first flush storm, and then your detention basin to provide your reduction in your peak runoff.
Can you describe where that basin will be?
It's going to have to, it's shown on the plan at the western end of the development. It's kind of just an oval right now, but it will have to be in that section of the property. If we can incorporate other small ones, I'm not sure at this point, but basically the entire site drains towards Aquidneck Ave, so we will definitely have majority, if not all, the drainage system between the building and Aquidneck
And
Ave.
that will be open, right?
We're expecting at this time that it's a surface basin, yes.
Okay. And it will all go into the rainwater system of the Aquidneck Avenue, correct?
Well, from
Eventually.
what I understand, and Chris knows more details about this, but the DOT is replacing that entire drainage system on Aquidneck Ave, and it's going to be a piped system. If we can, we would discharge by a pipe underground for majority of the storms. You always end up with a 100-year overflow, just because you need to
Right.
make sure your basin doesn't collapse or anything. But for those smaller storms, if the state allows, we'll be able to pipe that in, so there'll be even less, surface runoff.
So it's a work in progress right now.
It is, and we're hoping to get a copy of the state's plans so we can try to get these two projects to blend
Okay.
together.
And sewer is all going to city sewer regardless of the reconstruction of Aquidneck Avenue.
Yeah, it's all gonna go to the local, the municipal
Okay.
sewer, yes.
And all the rainwater that collects on the roof goes down into this catchment basin.
All of the rainwater on this site goes down right now to Aquidneck Ave and gets captured into that swale system, and it will end up going into the same system one way or another. Hopefully,
Okay.
we'll be able to pipe it in, but we'll work with DOT to see how they allow us to make that connection.
Is the pavement pervious or impervious?
The pavement, we're assuming it's gonna be impervious.
Okay.
I don't know that the water table in this area would support a pervious pavement profile.
Okay.
A question about the additional parking that goes with the new units. Does that area drain? Where does that drain? Because I see in the existing lot that are, the two parking lots are going to be connected, there is a drain there. Says drain inlet. So does that new parking lot drain into the existing parking lot?
No, I don't know those specific details right now, but we're expecting that it all drains down the hill too, because we're trying to minimize any impacts that we make to the existing commercial property. So we probably won't be putting any stormwater into that system at all.
Okay, so, and this parking lot is kind of up the hill, right? So it's going to come down,
Yeah, it'll come
like
down.
down the driveway of the,
We're captured in a, catch basin, and we'll have the pipe come down subsurface, whether it be in the driveway or
so
under
there
the
could be
ground.
some kind of additional drain in
There will
that
be.
new
Yeah.
parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, I expect we're gonna have some sort of structural control for conveying the stormwater for this project versus just sheet flow. We're gonna need to capture it and pipe it,
Right.
is my guess.
Thank you.
You're
But you can prevent the water from just flowing down that north driveway into the road.
Yeah, we don't want it to just, I mean, it's not a good idea to sheet flow for that kind of distance.
Yeah.
You usually want to control it and pipe it at that point to minimize any erosion.
Like put a grate in the road or something like that, or what would
I'm
you do?
sorry?
Put a grate in the road to collect the water, or how
A
would you do that?
grate, we may, or at the parking lot.
Across the driveway?
Or
Yeah.
across the driveway, yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
Currently, does all that runoff go right down through the curb cut?
That's
on
a
the
good
street?
point, is there's nothing in place right now for this lot under existing conditions. So there is quite a bit of stormwater that comes down that hill.
I got some questions here. Most all of them's related to the drainage plan and situation there. Now, you said a second ago that you do not know whether this land here would support a non-impervious surface.
Right, so when
Yeah.
you do a pervious pavement design, you usually need a deeper profile and then separation from your water table. The testals we have so far suggest that the water table is less than 2 feet on this site. Another reason why pervious surfaces, when I say pervious surfaces for parking, I'm saying pervious asphalt or pervious pavers.
Right.
Those two features may not work on this site that well because of the slope. If you put stone on a slope, it's just coming out the bottom. You need to get something that's flatter, so you have that reservoir where it sits there and infiltrates. So if we can use pervious features, it would be at the very top of the hill where we have the parking lot area where we can make it a little bit flatter. But again, because the water table is not very deep, and we are controlled in that area on how much we can fill just by having to connect the two parking areas together for the project. I don't know that we're gonna be able to incorporate pervious parking areas for the project.
Okay. I assume the rendering drawings that are provided don't really reflect the actual proposed layout and design of this lot, is that correct?
It's a master plan level, so it's kind of conceptual at this point, and we keep developing things to a further point. So the renderings, you're right, may not 100% match the civil plan at this point, but they will when you get it for preliminary.
All right, the reason I ask that question is because the rendering drawings right now do not look at all like what the site master plan drawings are showing. In respect to the access driveway, on the rendering drawings, well, on the site master plan, it shows a driveway to the north of the building, of the proposed new building. The rendering drawings don't show any driveway there at all. It just shows it all grassy area. And the entranceway being the current entranceway to the office building areas. Is that an option that's being looked at?
No, I mean, I think the TRC had liked the layout that we have shown on the civil plans. The building would be flipped from what's shown on the civil plans, because the architectural design wants to stagger that building towards the north. You know, the west side of the building would be more south, and the east side of the building would be more north versus how we have it shown on our plan. But creating a separate entrance driveway just for the residential component of the development was something that people felt was a decent feature to have for this project.
Oh, I don't understand why that would be.
Oh.
You know, from a Conservation Commission and environmental viewpoint, I think not having that driveway to the north would be better, because it provides, and having the residents use that entranceway that presently exists, you could still build that parking lot to the north for the residents off of that current one. And thereby you would reduce the amount of impervious surfaces for this area. You would provide more open space for the residents, which, the way I look at it right now, there's very little open space available. So I actually like the rendering drawings better than I like the actual master plan drawing myself, so I'm just curious what the rationale there was.
The second road was proposed mostly by when we went in front of the Roads and Utility Commission from a fire perspective. They were more concerned about having a second way of egress and into the property, and as emergency get out of it. So they actually liked the secondary road, so we're in a little bit of a conflict.
All right, so the two parking areas on the east, those are connected?
Yes, yep, they're connected. So it ends up being a dead end, which was brought up in Roads and Utilities. They prefer having an access up to that upper parking lot for fire and safety.
All right.
That was playing with both sides. I mean, as a property owner, want residents, the open space, I agree with you. And
I mean, that's a pretty,
obviously, it's cheaper to make less road, but
yeah,
there's-
it's a
they're
pretty
more
big
than concerned to
entranceway
get-
there.
What's that?
It's a pretty big entranceway there where the office buildings
Yeah,
are.
it's actually not a very good one. It's a very steep slope, actually, and, you know, just the way the land kind of roads, it actually is kind of cumbersome, quite frankly. So this provides a much more natural slope up for a fire engine or a rescue squad to get up that way.
all right.
So that was the comment that we received in Roads and Utilities.
All right, so the rendering drawings will be changed in the next go.
Yeah, that was a very early concept, and then we met with, obviously, Roads and Utilities, and then we met to TRC, so we ended up where we are today after those meetings.
Okay. Let's see. On that driveway, the entranceway, I noticed that on the master plan, on the eastern end of the driveway, it says it's bituminous paved, and on the western end of the driveway, it says it's a dirt roadway. How much of it is going to be dirt and how much of it is going to be paved?
The entirety, so I think what you're seeing is the overlap of the underlying existing conditions label. That's why it's screened. The
Oh,
entire
okay.
thing will be asphalt.
Yeah,
Asphalt.
right now, it's a broken up asphalt semicircle in front of the house with 2 curb cuts.
All right.
So,
And the problem with having, well, never mind.
And that's the one curb cut you indicated you're eliminating, is one of those uses?
yeah, we're eliminating one of those curb cuts. And, you know, we're meeting with DOT next week at 1 o'clock. They're doing, Quinnipiac Ave is gonna be all redone in April, May. So sidewalks are going on the west-hand side of the Quinnipiac Ave, and the drainage is gonna be redone on the, I'm sorry, on the eastern side.
Yep.
So our side is getting new drainage with either swale, combination of swales and new piping going in.
Okay, my other observation here is, with this new building that's being proposed and the parking area and the driveway, you're really creating a large area of impervious surface, which is going to affect your ability, the ground recharge capability of the property as well. It looks to me like there's almost pretty close to 50% of the current property is going to become impervious. Have you done an estimate of how much of this property is going to become impervious compared to present amount? Seems like it's going to be a large
Well,
change.
Yeah, I mean, in order to achieve the mixed use, you know, we've tried to we've kind of really gone as close as we can to the minimum parking requirement that's required with an office building and the residential, being 2 spaces per dwelling unit, and then the mixed use being 3 spaces per 1,000 square feet of commercial space. So we've gone over a little bit over the minimum, but we've kind of stuck as close as we can to the required parking to obviously not increase more impervious surface.
So are you going to be able to recapture this lost recharge capability somehow? Or what percentage of recharge capability are we going to lose?
I don't really have the answers for that
Okay.
right now, but we'll make sure that we pay attention to it as a result of this meeting.
Okay. And when I look at this plan here, I mean, the biggest thing that pops into my mind as a concern is the potential flooding conditions from this property onto Aquidneck Avenue, because you got a lot of impervious material.
Sure.
The whole slope is downhill. So if, during a severe storm condition, you're going to have a lot of water flowing from that property down onto Aquidneck Avenue. So are you going to be able to devise some kind of a stormwater control mechanism to prevent that from happening?
We'll be required to. In addition, because this is a state road, not only do they review your peak runoff, but they also review your volume for your 10-year storm. So we'll have to make sure that we address all of the stormwater requirements, and then anything that the state has on top of that to protect from flooding. The drainage systems are required to be designed for a 100-year storm. So we'll be meeting that criteria, or we'll have to reduce the scope of the project so we can.
Okay.
So,
I think we're going to learn a lot more next Monday when we meet with DOT, because they're literally redesigning that whole drainage on the eastern side, I'm sure, because it's probably.
Yeah, but you're talking about the drainage system for Aquidneck Avenue, right?
Yeah, but we're tying it, I mean,
You're going to,
as Rob said to me from DOT, is every property hits this drainage system, so they're working with every single property owner in their current conditions
Right.
all the way down. They have a meeting, like, when they're done with mine, they go on to the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy, and next person. So I think they're trying to account for this hillside that we have on Aquidneck Ave that's going into the swales currently.
Yeah.
And they're re-engineering the swales as well as the piping to handle the
all
water.
right, so they're going to take your project situation into consideration, and if they have concerns about the proposed design, then they're going to let you know, and you're going to have to do something to adjust to that or resolve it, right?
They're pretty happy we're doing this project because they get an opportunity to make sure that it's done right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's why they call the meeting out there.
Okay.
We were pretty lucky.
One other question. On the site master plan drawings, sheet 4, it indicates there's a long stone wall along the southern lot boundary and a smaller stone retaining wall in the northeast area. And I just wanted to verify that the plan is to leave those stone walls in place?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Actually, one of them, the one that's to the east of the property that says stone retaining wall, and then it says remove existing retaining wall.
Yeah,
Can you just clarify? And then
Sure.
there's
So it looks like-
another concrete retaining wall, and it says that will be removed as well?
yeah, the previous property owner, not the one we bought it from, I guess, built a series of concrete retaining walls on the way up, and combination of like stone put into the concrete, I guess. It's actually kind of a man-made thing where the one on the southern boundary was the actual original stone wall on that
Okay.
side. So the other two don't look, they're not really stone walls, they're kind of like a conglomerate of cement and stone all thrown together.
And that's the point where, near that, the new parking lot.
Yeah.
So that's the steep hill. Are you
Yeah.
going to have to put in a new type of retaining wall
Yeah,
there?
we're probably gonna have to,
Yeah.
you know, depending on what we end up with the slopes, we're gonna have to figure that piece out. So hopefully, you know, we got a lot of rock on that site, not just from the stone wall, but there's piles of it back there, so we hopefully gonna be able to reuse a lot of that.
Right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it makes it look a lot nicer.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
No, I think that's it.
Do we have a motion?
That's all I have. Yeah, I will make a motion. I think my motion is related to items that you've stated you already plan to do, but I think we should put this, reiterate it in our recommendations to the planning board to show that we consider these items.
Sure.
And the first one is, we would, okay, the motion is that we would recommend approval of this project to go forward with the condition that the estimated percentage of groundwater recharge loss on Lot 129 as a result of this project should be calculated and provided prior to final project approval to show that we have a good handle on what's going to happen. And that the stormwater management and control features planned for this project be identified on the site master plan drawings to make sure that there's adequate stormwater control protection, which right now has not been defined.
Absolutely.
So that's
How would you ask that they resolve the issue of the stormwater recharge? Is there a certain percentage of recharge you want, or is there a certain, how, do you just want to be informed of what they found, or how do you want to, because you're making a recommendation here?
one of the things that the stormwater management plan says is that groundwater recharge for any project is an important thing that needs to be looked at and needs to be evaluated to make sure that it's not appreciably impacted.
Could we revise it saying? that-
So right now, we don't know. It looks to me like there's at least maybe a 50% impact based on all the impervious materials that's going to be put into this lot. I think it would be important for somebody to quantify what is the loss in groundwater recharge, and then the town needs to make a decision, the planning board, is that acceptable to us, given the location of this property and what's going to.
Is that something you
yeah.
do? You calculate groundwater recharge amount?
Sorry.
Do we have to adhere to a standard?
We do. There's a state requirement.
You actually get a number.
You calculate groundwater recharge for the impervious area for your project site. And then, if you can't meet it, usually it's because it's a high water table. then you can ask for a waiver, but obviously that will be a little bit difficult for this site, so we'll have to see what we can do to try to meet it. Usually you incorporate something like rain gardens or something that infiltrates into
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah.
the water table.
Okay. What, you're asking for a number.
I'm actually asking, yeah, eventually, I'm asking that it be calculated. Right now, we don't know what the number is. I'm suggesting
So,
that.
would it be calculated and we'd have to adhere to the state guidelines?
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry?
Would it be calculated and then we have to adhere to the state guidelines?
Yeah, I think your motion needs to be measurable somehow.
Yeah, I mean, do we have to meet a test?
We've never asked for this before, put it that way. So it's just,
I mean, I'm assuming we have to
territory.
meet the state RIDIM
If
guidelines,
we
correct?
don't meet the state guideline, we have to ask for a waiver. And
Okay.
Middletown makes us ask for the waiver both at the state level and then at the planning board level.
do you know what the state guideline is for Middletown? The Middletown
Well, they
recharge?
require that we do groundwater recharge, yeah. The exact calculation off the top of my head, I don't know right now, but,
Right.
it's based off, it's a function of the impervious area for the site.
All right, so I modify my motion to say that the actual amount of groundwater recharge lost, potentially lost by this project be calculated to ensure that it meets state guidelines.
There you go.
State
I like that.
Yeah.
That's the motion.
Okay. Any additions or questions about the motion? No. Do you have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
The last project is the West House Corporation Master Plan Approval for Forest Avenue. Oh, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Christian Belden with Church Community Housing Corporation. We're the developer for the West House project. I'll give you a little background on Church Community, just in case you don't know us. We've been around since 1969. We've developed over 1,000 units of housing during that time, almost exclusively in Newport County, one of which is the West House development that exists. It's 50 units of elderly affordable housing. And it was originally developed as a part of the Gilbane Office Park, but when they were unable to find a buyer for the property, we were approached, we purchased it, and we converted it to elderly affordable housing. Being that it was originally built as an office building, it has a much larger amount of parking than is needed for senior affordable housing by many times the need. Additionally, it has a lot more common area than would normally be built for a senior housing development, because typically a senior housing development has apartments on either side of a single hallway that runs down the middle. In this instance, the building was built to have offices around the perimeter and then offices in the middle with a hallway that ran all the way around the perimeter. And so much of the space in the middle is common area with lounges and rooms for visiting nurses and dining rooms and computer labs and that kind of thing. And so after we saw what happened with the Berkeley Peckham project and it not moving forward, and understanding the aging demographics in Middletown and the really critical need for additional elderly affordable housing, we began working on the plan that you have before you to add to the existing building to increase the number of affordable elderly housing apartments there by 54. And all of the development that's proposed is in the existing rear parking lot, which at this point is completely unused. All of the current residents park in the parking lot on Forest Avenue. And even there are 39 spaces in that front lot, and on any day, there are between 15 and 25 cars parked there. That's the maximum parking load for the existing 50 units, which we see consistent across our elderly housing portfolio, that the parking demands for these types of developments is significantly less than what towns typically require in terms of parking provisions. I believe you have the plans that we submitted for the comprehensive permit master plan application before you. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
You're familiar with the engineering drawings and the design of this project totally?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the engineering isn't complete, obviously, since it's just master plan, but yeah. I'm
Right,
familiar.
okay.
Mhm.
You want to ask a question?
I have to ask, anybody have any questions?
I do.
Go first.
I noticed from the design petition that this is going to be a flat-roofed building.
Mhm.
The roof will have some drains, roof drains and downspouts.
Mhm.
Where are those going to be located? Are you just going to have four, one at each corner, or how's that going to be? Because with a flat roof, you got the potential for a lot of water accumulating on that during a major storm.
Yeah, I mean, typically flat roofs aren't really flat though, right? I mean, you use the foam board that goes underneath the EPDM or rubber roofing to create a slope to pitch it away to wherever the roof drains end up being. We have not yet at this point identified the specific locations for those roof drains.
Okay. But do you anticipate there'll be more than four likely? Or you don't know?
I don't know
Okay.
at this point.
On your drawings, you have identified two heavy-duty stormwater chambers,
Mhm.
one to the north of the building and one to on the southern. One of those chambers, the one to the north, is located, it looks like, underneath the paved driveway,
Mhm.
and then the one to the south is in a grassy area. How are those storm chambers, how are they going to work? Like the storm chamber that's underneath the driveway, what are the different kinds of water that will drain into that, and how will the water get in there if it's underneath the driveway?
Well, there's a catch basin that will collect the water, and then it's connected to that Cultec.
Catch basin coming off the driveway or
Yep.
within the driveway? All right, I'm not sure I saw that on the drawings, but.
Yeah. It is on page.
You mean the one that's on page 5, where it says the existing detention pond?
Well, page 5, I shouldn't say existing because it shows the proposed house. Sheet 5 of 8. Depends on if you're looking at the
I'm looking at the,
architectural or the engineering plans.
I'm looking at the master plan application drawings.
Yeah, if you're on sheet 5 of 8 of the Insight Engineering, the grading, drainage, and utility plan.
Yeah, okay, I'm there.
It's a black and white plan.
The black and white there?
It's this one.
I'm on your sheet 5, which is what you said, 5 of 8?
So you can see the catch basin is to the northwest of the northern Cultec, and you can see it's piped into the pretreatment unit. And the same is true for the southern Cultec. There are two different catch basins that are piped into that.
Oh, that's the CB identification. Is that the catch basin?
Yeah.
So you just got the one for that parking area and driveway, just the one catch basin?
Well, there's a lot of the other catch basins for that portion of the property are already existing and are already feeding into the detention pond to the west.
There's two of them, here. They're both going down there. They fill up here, they're going to groundwater, and whatever goes over the swell will go into the detention ponds.
Yeah, I know, but how does the water get in there?
It's pipe.
How does the water get into the stormwater basins? There's only one little catch basin here on the road, for this whole driveway. There's one little catch basin there. And here, I don't know where the catch basin, or if there is a catch basin. So my question is, how does water get into there? I mean, I know that the runoff from the roofs is gonna feed into those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the lines
But
coming.
what else feeds into there, into the two catch basins? Let's take the one to the south, because that's an easier one to maybe look at. And the one to the south, I know the roof drains go into that basin, but what else may flow into there other than the roof drains?
Sure. There are two other catch basins that are piped into that southern Caltech.
One of them from in the center of that cul-de-sac?
Yep.
Okay. And then the other one is on that neck between the two cul-de-sacs in the bottom, is that it?
Mhm.
Yep, right where you enter the property.
Okay, so all the water that goes into those catch basins would either come from or not into that stormwater chamber. All the water that would go into that stormwater chamber would either have to come from the roof runoffs or from one of those two catch basins.
Right. Again, we're taking advantage of the existing grading and drainage
Yeah.
that already exists and is piped into that detention pond to the west.
Under the current, the way it's set up right now, with just a big piece of pavement there,
That's right.
which is gonna be worse than, whatever you make here is gonna be worse than this. Is there a problem with water when, in a heavy rainstorm? Does it flow into the parking lot of Enterprise System or something like that?
No, we've never had any complaints about ponding or drainage issues there.
Okay,
And we're reducing the impervious surface by 21%.
yeah, whatever you have here is less than what you're gonna have afterwards. I mean, the current system will be more impervious than the system you're gonna have here. You have better drainage with your new system.
Yeah, we'll have
Because
that, right.
You got grass all through here, and you've got less impervious surfaces.
Right, we're increasing the pervious area by 21% and decreasing the impervious surface by 21%.
So if you had no trouble before, you should have no trouble even now.
That's certainly, yeah, I mean, the entire development is within an existing parking lot, and we're pulling up a lot of that paved area and replacing it with lawn or vegetated area.
Well, I know that this is better than what currently exists, but I'm only asking if we can make the design better
Oh, yeah,
than what it currently is.
okay.
Or, you know, you might as well, since we're at the design phase now, if there's a way to capture more water to go into those storm chambers, then that would be a good thing. Right now, I just don't know how much water is going to go into those other than off the roof, but it is better than nothing, so that's a definite. All right, I wanted to understand how it works and what was going to flow into there, so you answered that question. Let's see. My next question is, on that same sheet 5 of 8 that we're looking at, it appears to me that the plan is to change the land slope. It's changing, the land slope is being changed to direct the runoff flow to the northwest direction rather than due west, which is the existing land slope direction. And I'm questioning, why do you need to change the land slope? Because if it goes with what I see in the drawing here, in this northwest corner of the property, you're going to be directing runoff into the Salvatore property, rather than it going west into the detention pond like it currently does. So it seems to me that the best thing to do is to leave the land slope as it is right now, rather than changing it. Did you see where I'm
Yeah.
coming from in the question?
I do. Yeah, I can run that by the engineer.
If there's rationale for it, then, you know, I'd like to know what that is, but otherwise, it doesn't seem like a prudent thing to do.
Oh, there is another catch basin right over there. They are hard to see, aren't they? Right in
There's
that,
a catch basin there, but it says on the drawing, not found. So I don't know if there is one there or not. Maybe there was one planned at one time and not installed.
I suspect it's just, there's shrubs and growth there.
All right.
I mean, I know that there is brambles and stuff right in that
Right.
location.
Well, even if there is one there, it still doesn't seem a good thing to do to me, to change the slope of that land to be directed into that other property. Because some of it's going to go into the catch basin, but some of it's not.
Yeah, I'll ask the engineer.
Okay, thank you. My last question is, I was looking at the last two sheets in that drawing package there, and it says it identifies it's a pre-watershed analysis map and a post-watershed analysis map.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the two maps identify, I believe, the amount of that land that is controlled in terms of, I guess, the water flow and where it's going, and what part of that land is considered uncontrolled. Is that what those maps are showing? Is that what controlled and uncontrolled
I believe
refers
that's
to?
accurate, yeah.
Okay. So on the post watershed analysis map, the second one, it appears right now that the uncontrolled portion has increased about 50% from the pre-analysis map. But I don't think that's right. I don't understand why that is, because it looks to me like you've got drains, water drains in the center of that new cul-de-sac, and you got a drain on that neck going there, and a lot of the water runoff is going to go into those drains and go into that storm chamber. So it seems to me that a decent portion of that area that's right now says uncontrolled should be controlled.
Yeah, this was a question that came up at TRC too, that the engineer is currently looking at.
Okay, so you're going to look at that?
Mhm.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other?
It seems to me, from the standpoint of the Conservation Commission, the benefit that we derive from this proposal is the reduction of impervious cover because of the reduced parking spaces. So that's the benefit that we get from this. That seems to me to be a net benefit. Is there anything worse from this than that? That would
We're
also
discussing.
that benefit.
We're discussing that, but I understand what you're saying. Any other comments? Is there a problem to the south, south of the uncontrolled section? Have any abutters ever complained about water runoff there?
I haven't heard of any complaints from any abutters, period.
Okay. That'd be my only concern, because if you're controlling the rest of it, you know, one section which is just, I've not actually been in that one section, it's flattish or doesn't run out that much or whatever it is, and it's not causing any trouble, then it's not causing any trouble, basically.
Yeah, to my knowledge, we don't have any drainage problems on site.
Okay. Other concerns? A motion?
Move that we approve as proposed this project.
Anyone want to second that?
Second that?
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. No opposed? Thank you, sir.
I have opposed.
You opposed?
Well, I don't have opposed, really. I am in favor, but I'd like a condition
Okay.
put on our
Well,
approval.
you can make a proposal.
I would, maybe make a new motion, or?
You're going to have to.
All right. I mean, I make a motion that we recommend approval of the project, but with the condition that that you re-examine those existing, or re-examining those proposed change in land scopes in that northwest area to determine the reason for that. I mean, I would recommend that the current land slopes just be maintained unless there is a beneficiary reason why that change is occurring.
Do you, okay, we don't have information to assess that, nor does he or anybody else have any reason to assess that, because engineering needs to get back to us on that. Do you want to leave that as an open question? Say, we recommend that the planning board acknowledge this as an issue and address it, so it doesn't come back to us? Because you really can't, there's nothing really
Yeah,
to say
that's
about it
fine.
right now.
How does that open question get documented and passed on to
It's
the
part
planning
of
board?
That's part of a recommendation. You
Okay.
can make an addendum to recommend saying, I recommend, well, you can make it yourself, but recommend that the planning board assess the direction of drainage as it's unclear on the plan, or something like that.
All right, I mean, I should do that
You're making the proposal, yeah.
independently?
No, just do it now. I'd like to make an addendum to the,
Oh, okay, all right. So I make a motion, all right, I make a motion that we include an addendum to the recommendation describing that we think the change in land slope on the northwest corner of the property be reexamined to verify that it is a beneficiary change to the project. I mean, and right now, it does not appear to be a beneficiary change to the abutting landowner. Something like that. I mean,
can I rephrase it for you?
yeah,
Go ahead,
rephrase
I'm
it
sorry.
for me, please.
We have to say something definite.
I know we have to say something
Sort
definite.
of like that. Yeah, I don't think.
Do you want me to write something out, and I
I'll
can
try right
restate
here.
it? Or you, go ahead.
We recommend that the planning board assess the drainage direction in the northwest section of the plan to make sure that the revised drainage is appropriate. Period.
That sounds good.
Anybody want to add it or change them? All in favor? Or second, we need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I have one question, lawyer, sir. We have this major plan on West Main Road with the low-income housing project, which has been, last month, nobody showed up, this month, nobody showed up. It's been already approved by the planning board. Does that make it a moot issue for us, or what happens?
Well,
I wasn't notified that we were on the agenda, and I just wonder if that's something else that's going on. I only found out because our attorney looked at the agenda.
Rob?
Oh, he was notified. He
Okay.
mailed 3 times.
Okay. I wondered if something else similar was going on that, as the applicant, I didn't get
I think
notified.
that I understood all applicants had been multiply informed that this.
Yeah, Warren Hall had sent it, and I sent it twice, or asked twice.
Okay.
Thank you for coming regardless.
Yeah, so assuming they did get notification, and it's been multiple times that they haven't shown up, I think you could act on the, here, essentially not recommend that it pass until you hear on.
Well, the planning board has already approved it.
Yeah.
So whatever we do is not going to really change, because last month,
Well-
we were supposed to recommend to them before their meeting, we never did, because they never came last time.
Oh, because they never came.
Yeah, and that was, who knows why, I don't know why. But regardless, and I know they talked to you about it, right? And they said they were going to come?
Yeah, I
And they
have
said, who are they going to come, and they didn't come. Now they for sure know about it, they didn't come. And secondarily, it's already been passed by the planning commission. Does that make it a non-issue for us or not?
Can I voice my opinion?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I don't know the answer.
The master plan was approved by the planning board, true. But the next step would be the preliminary plan development. And we did not get a chance to provide our comments to the master plan as a result of a meeting that we've held, that has taken place. But having looked at that plan, I have some concerns that I think need to be forwarded to and known by the planning board. So my question is, even though we didn't get a chance to hold a meeting here with them present, could we nevertheless make up a list of our concerns, having reviewed the master plan drawings, and forward that to the planning board?
I don't know.
Yes, I think if they were, notified that it was being heard tonight, appropriately notified, and they didn't show up, then you're free to make a recommendation to the planning board. And what the planning board does with it is sort of another question, but I think you can certainly pass along your recommendation to them.
Would
as-
the planning board reopen the subject of this again? It's already been closed by them, because they voted last week to approve each of the individual exceptions.
Yeah, well, let me say this. The next step in the process is their development of a preliminary plan, right? It seems to me like some of our comments could impact the development of the preliminary plan that they would come up with, that the developer would come up with. So I'm thinking that, if we forwarded our concerns to the planning board, I would expect that they would then, if they concurred with them, they would forward them to the developer and recommend that he takes these into advisement and development of his preliminary plan.
I'm more concerned that the planning board approved it without hearing from us, and the only reason they didn't hear it from us is they didn't show up to the meeting, and, I mean, can we,
Yeah.
I know it's a little late in the game, but can we force their feet to the fire
When-
and say
when
that we
was
do
the
not
la-
recommend that this?
When was it approved?
Just last week, I forget what day.
Last
The
week?
2nd of November was the meeting,
Yeah.
the special planning board meeting.
Yeah.
I believe that was on the 2nd of November.
Yeah, I think for purposes of this commission tonight, you're free to pass on the question and determine what your recommendation is, given that they're not here, and forward that to the planning board. And then the planning board will have to consider what it does with it. I'm not sure if they'll reopen it.
Can we recommend that it not be approved until we can have a hearing?
Well, it's already been approved,
I
correct?
understand, but
Yeah.
we still recommend that it
Yes,
not
you
be,
can, yes, I think you can make that, yeah.
We could say that we do not concur with approval or something like that.
I'm not sure at this
They're not
time
going to change it.
to what degree it'll hold it up, and whether they can sort of retroactively go back and reopen it up. But I presume they have a, continuing obligation before all of the boards until it's finalized. So I think it would be appropriate to make the planning board aware that they haven't been complying with, what they need to come before.
Would a letter from us to the planning board, because it doesn't go to zoning converts, because it's a multifamily project, doesn't go there at all, it comes back to the planning board. To the planning board saying that they did not present their case two meetings in a row,
And they were directed to be
well,
here.
yeah, they were informed of the meeting as far as I know. The first one, I'm not.
They were requested to
I
attend.
can't confirm the first one since I never was dealt with making them come here before. This time I know they were informed. But we really can't make a recommendation without them having their ability to rebut what we're going to say. And secondarily, I think we just make a note, write a letter saying that we were never able to say yea or nay or
Yeah, I mean, you
or
can
discuss the issue and then leave it at that.
You can do that as well, but because it was properly noticed and they're not here, you can also, you can hear it, and because they're not here, they were noticed, you're entitled to, opine on the matter from the standpoint of what's within the purview of the commission.
Okay, let's just discuss that for 2 seconds. Would the group rather just write a letter saying that they were not here for 2 scheduled meetings and we cannot render a decision? Or would you rather write down a series of recommendations in their abstention that we might recommend if they were here?
I think if you already have some ideas in mind, it would probably be more helpful, more useful to list them and say, these were our concerns. So if there's an opportunity for the planning board, after maybe it comes back for preliminary plan review, at least they have our concerns on the record and could consider them then.
Would you consider requesting that when they do a preliminary plan, that they come back and present that one to us so we can discuss it at that point rather than doing it now since this did not work?
That makes sense.
Would that make more sense than,
Say that again, Jim, please?
rather than, because we usually don't get them at the preliminary plan, we could make a request that when they do come up with a preliminary plan, they come back and present that one to us, so we can have our input at that point.
Well,
Prior to the planning board.
I'm going to
At the preliminary plan stage.
state again, I think that our concerns should be forwarded to them now. Because if they do impact their design, they should know about it sooner rather than later. Hearing it at the preliminary plan stage after they've already come up with a preliminary plan is not going to make them happy. They're going to have to go back and redo the preliminary plan. But if we tell them now, and the planning board concurs with our recommendations, then they have to address those issues in their preliminary plan.
I understand. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
see what people want to do.
I mean, I think it's better to
I'm not as
notify them
concerned with
sooner.
making them happy. I kind of feel, I'm not as concerned with making them happy.
Well,
I feel like,
I
you know, the
agree,
builder
but-
and the developer and the planning board just kind of blew us
We're
off.
going to be farther ahead in the process by letting them know sooner rather than later.
That seems to me to be reasonable. The sooner we let our concerns be known, the more efficient the process will be.
Okay. What do you think, Melissa?
That's,
I'm not opposed to putting together the list of concerns, and whether we send that to the planning board now and say, we want these addressed, or, we want another chance to have these looked at before the preliminary plan is approved. I take Howard's point that if you get it to the developers in advance, then they can work on it and put it into their preliminary plan, but if they had shown up, they would have that. So I'm not as concerned as getting it. I mean, if they have to end up doing more work, they're doing more work because they didn't do their work in the first place.
I agree.
So, I mean, but I will say this, I don't
Well-
have any specific questions I want to put down right now, but if you do, I think it would be helpful to put them on the record, and maybe we send them at the same time, we send them to the developer and we send them to the planning board so that everybody's aware we have unmet questions.
How would you like, okay, it seems like everybody wants to somehow send some in absentia recommendations to the planning board, and they can do with them as they like. How would you like to approach that? Do you want to make a list of them now? Do you want to have each of you send me a list of your individual recommendations, and I can combine them in one big list and send it to them at another time? How do you want to approach that?
I would say make a list, have us submit things that we have as questions.
So you would like to email your concerns, and I'll combine them in one big list and send it to the planning commission within a week or so?
Yeah, and I would just say that, like right now, I can't think of a specific question I want to put on the list. I'll go back and look through it and see what I come up with. But a lot of times, it's a question that you ask, and then a response, and then a follow-up question, or a question during the discussion that, it spurs another question. So it doesn't really give us the same completeness as we would have had they come to the meeting. So how we want to address that, maybe to say we want them to come back before the preliminary plans are presented to the planning board. I don't know if that's
Can
possible.
we leave that up to the planning board and let them decide how they approach
Yeah.
that?
I would
And
do that.
I'll just say, in terms of doing it kind of off the record, that might create an open meetings issue, so it's probably better to discuss it even though they're not here, or to recommend, that they come back in front of the commission so that you can discuss it openly.
Could we list our overall concern that they didn't come here?
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, having them come here is kind of when you have the discovery
Yeah.
where those questions come up. But then say that we have multiple concerns, among them are, and then list the things that will be forwarded to you, so that they know that this is not just a, one and done, here's our requests,
Is that,
and that we recommend they come before the Conservation Commission before submitting the preliminary plans.
We could even hold a special meeting.
Well, yeah, I don't think we should have to hold a special meeting, frankly, because we gave them 2 chances. How about if we go away and come up with our questions, and at the next meeting, I don't know how we can do this, but I'm just saying, like, for the open meetings aspect of it, if we need to discuss them in this meeting,
Yeah, you
I'm
would
not
want-
prepared to do that right now.
They would need to be re-notified.
Yeah.
Re-notice that their issue is being heard. But I don't see any problem with recommending to the planning board that this is revisited and they direct them to come before before this commission, and if you wanted to list your general concerns, I think that would be fine as well.
Great idea.
We can't, unless we meet as a committee, we can't do this officially yet, I understand. So we have to, if we're gonna come up with this, we have to do it officially right now or at our next monthly meeting. Can we, as committee members, send them a list of concerns, not standing for the entire committee in the interim? Like, next week, could Howard send a list of concerns to Mr. Croce saying, these are our concerns, they missed 2 meetings, I think these are important. The committee cannot meet for this because they never showed up, but these are our personal concerns, something like that.
But could we at this meeting, because this is a meeting that people were notified of, move to, as you say, have them reconsider?
Yeah, I think that would be the most prudent approach. Is it was noticed for tonight, they had an opportunity to be here, you're all here right now, you can let the planning board know that this was before you, they didn't show up, and therefore you're not favorably, you're not in a position to make a favorable recommendation until you hear from them.
Is that,
So the idea would be, we would make a motion tonight to say we will notify the planning board that we have not heard from this group?
I would make
Is
a
that-
motion that you're not recommending that it be approved until you hear from them.
Okay.
I think that would be the
Pretty
appropriate
straightforward.
motion to make, because you're giving them a recommendation sort of one way or the other, and I think it sounds like to me the recommendation is, no, we don't approve, because we haven't heard from them and we'd like to hear from them.
how about we're not able to approve it, rather than we don't approve? We cannot give an opinion because we can't have, we're not explored the issues.
Yeah, I mean, you're either approving it or you're not, right? So,
We're not able to, is that a third option?
But-
well, I mean, if you're not able to,
If
you
you're not
Just
able
not.
to, you're not approving it.
Well,
So-
true.
Right, so we're not approving it.
I would say
is what we would say.
it would be a motion to not approve, because, and
Make
for
it-
the reasons stated.
Okay. That sounds, because we can't send individual ones, we can't really make a list of recommendations without them being able a chance to refute what we've said. I
Well,
don't
you
think.
can if it's properly noticed and they don't show up.
But we can't do it in emails in the next week or so.
I
We
think
can't
it
do it
would,
individually, I guess. We have to meet as a committee. So I guess the choice is either send them a note to Mr. Croce saying that we can't approve it, which is fine by me, or we spend half an hour coming up with a list of problems that we think we should be addressed before they come up with the preliminary plan.
I think we should do the former, because
Yep. I think so too. Just
I
keep it
think the
short.
questions come up when they're here,
Yeah.
when you're having discussions with them.
Because really, ideally, we want them to be here. We want to hear from them. We want to ask them questions and get feedback. So I think it seems like the most straightforward thing is to say, we did not approve it at this meeting because they weren't here and so we weren't able to ask questions. We want them to return so we can ask them questions. So the action that we're taking is not approving.
Okay.
You want to make that motion?
No, not yet. I mean, I don't. Why can't we do both? Why can't we send a memo to the planning board now saying that we do not approve the current proposal? That's one action. We can do that tonight, out of tonight or tomorrow. And then, second part of it, how about if we all do send you our recommendations for questions to go to the planning board from us, and you consolidate all of them, and we look at those at the next meeting, and we approve those as our formal set of questions to be provided to the planning
As
board.
long as it's done at a meeting, I think that works.
Yeah.
It can't be done by me doing it by myself, because that doesn't work as a
Right.
committee.
So we send you the questions, you collate them all, put them together into a master list, and you can edit it and put anything. And then in our preparations for the next meeting, you send us all what you've put together, and we all get a chance to look at it, and then come to
And
the
discuss it
meeting
in an open
and
meeting.
Discuss it, yes.
Now, if they don't show up again, because this process is a back and forth
If-
process.
if
It's not
they
us
don't-
dictating.
If they don't show up again, we send that list to the planning board, the list of specifics to the planning board.
Acceptable?
I think so.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, I think that the most appropriate thing would be if you all want to individually come up with your own questions and concerns, to just all bring that to the next meeting, if they're going to be listed to be at the next meeting as well, and then put them all on the record there, if that's what you want to do.
I make a motion that we send a letter of non-approval of this to the planning board, and secondarily, we make a master list of possible questions, provided they show up next time to discuss. Otherwise, we'll forward those to the planning board.
I second them.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Anybody opposed? No? Good, all right. And
Not weed update, you know I want to make one.
one more issue, one more subject you want to talk about?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. So I have talked again to the URI Cooperative Extension expert on invasives. She is prepared to come and talk to us or have a special session. Members of the public can be invited. I would suggest we aim to do that after the new year, still on the aim of, we're going to kind of get re-energized on this in the next growing season. Everything's dormant now. The other thing I'd like to just offer is there is another course running of the invasive plant management training. And I've already given a copy of this printout of the training, description of the training, to Bob for Public Works. I don't know that we, as a commission, have the power to make a recommendation or anything like that, but at least for consideration, that someone from Public Works have the chance to take this training and get a sense of, help work toward making some decisions about how town-managed land will, invasives on town-managed land will be addressed. And this course, the next running of it is in January.
This is a course they run at
At
the
URI.
URI campus?
Is that URI, or
Yep.
is it computer?
So I think part of it might even be online right now. I'm not sure what they're doing, I think, in January. But for the two-day course, which is the Invasive Plant Management Certification course, there is also an on-site visit to a restoration project that they did in Narragansett. So it's, near URI.
Yeah. I spoke with Public Works, and they said
Bob?
they don't really have the manpower to
I understand that, but this.
take care of this from a,
And this isn't saying that Public Works is going to take this on as their complete management of the process, but it would give them a baseline of expertise in invasive plant management, which I think would help inform our discussions too, to say what's possible, what's not, how should we prioritize? Because I think one of the things we talked about before was there's kind of the town-managed land public policy of how to deal with invasives, and then there's the informing the public side of it. This would be really more on the, how are we going to manage on town-managed lands? How are we going to prioritize? We can't do everything everywhere, but maybe we can get better informed about the things that we really should be concerned about. For example, in the case of Japanese knotweed, it's very destructive. It can destroy structures. So maybe we want to say to Public Works, hey, where your guys identified this knotweed coming through sidewalks or a retaining wall or roadway, that we want to prioritize for treatment. If it's just growing in a field somewhere, then maybe we say, okay, we don't have the manpower to deal with that. But at least to have the tools in the toolkit to identify it and prioritize it, and make an assessment as to what really needs to be treated and or not. I'm just saying that this training is available, and it might help us reach that part, at least on the town-managed land. It might help us make those assessments.
also it might help us set up an instructional process for the private landowners.
Yeah.
When's the program?
January 10th and 11th, I think.
January.
So I think it's 11th.
Well,
I can forward this to everybody to,
why
you know,
don't
just
you?
to have it. But is that something that, can we make recommendation on that, or is it just something that I've given it to Bob and say, sounds like a good idea, but I mean, I'm not giving you the money for it, so I don't know. How does that work?
I don't know how it works. No idea.
What do you think, Bob? Would it be helpful if,
I would send a guy. I wouldn't have a problem sending someone.
okay.
Someone for the parks, the recreation department.
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, I don't know who would be the right person, but that would be, I'm just saying, like, does it help to have a communication from the Conservation Commission to say, we think this would be a good idea? Or is it within your purview and you don't really need that?
No, I wouldn't need that.
Okay,
There's budget for that to,
okay. Can we ask that whoever goes through the training, like, comes back and tells us how it was?
I could have them do that, for sure.
Okay. We want the report card.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Time to adjourn, I guess, so I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.